Welcome back, guys. This is Gaming with Austin. This is episode 22 of my Utopian community series. And let's wait patiently, because patience is a virtue here. Oops. Oops. My mistake. We're gonna finish paving the way for a grass path for the farms. This is phase 2 of the farming, by the way. And I'll start creating more paths along the way. And I'd also till the soil so I could grow some taters and carrots later on. Because, you know, no meal might be complete without those taters and carrots. Oops. Because, you know, it's not just about just one type of food. It's about multiple types of food. Because if you consume just one type of food, you could actually end up getting malnourished. Which is why people who end up eating just one thing every day, the same food every day, for like a year end up losing all that weight. That's the problem. It's a first world problem. Eating the same thing for a year straight. Every day. Every single day. Because, you know, you're not getting the right amount, the right nutrients. You need those nutrients. Let's replace those beetroot seeds. Let's look for some potatoes. Yeah? Taters? And some carrots. Right now. And eventually, I might just think about planting the taters on. Then the carrots. Eventually, I'd start building higher and higher on the farm. Like, the goal is self-sustainability. Because, you know, if we're not self-sustainable, we're gonna starve. There's already enough food for all of us, but the problem is unfair distribution practices by the greedy companies on how they distribute the money, to where most of the money ends up getting allocated to the CEOs and the chief officers. Some of those workers, they bust their ass, yet they get paid very little. That presents a huge problem with our society. It's not just that. There's animal abuse going on too, as a result of capitalism. If all the countries around the world ended up becoming socialist, the animal abuse, not only animal abuse would stop, crime rates would drop around the world. Too. Because, you know, in socialist countries like Canada and Portugal, crime rates are actually very low. Not only because of tougher, some the laws are tougher, but some of them are looser too, at the same time. Drug laws in Portugal are not as strict as they are here, yet Not a lot of people abuse drugs in Portugal. This is proof that decriminalization works. Pretty good. In Portugal. If we did the same thing here, the same thing would happen. Probably. Because of decriminalization. Because look at decriminalization of marijuana and legalization. Crime rates end up dropping. As a result. Back to the crop farming thing. This is going to be around 10 acres of land. Yes, that's a lot of land. Which is what I'm farming on about. That's pretty big. It's large. Because, you know, for a self-sustainable household, you're going to need about 2/3 of an acre of land if you're thinking of feeding about four people. Which is not a lot of people. Just an acre of land is enough to feed 6 people, assuming a vegan diet. Which is probably one of the reasons why veganism's growing all over the world. So we could have more resources to feed more people. So we could have more access to nutrition by promoting veganism. Because, you know, with the amount of grain required to make just 1 pound of meat is atrocious. If we all ditched meat, there'd be more than enough grain for everybody. That'd be good. It's good to have enough grains. Because too little carbs, your body's gonna end up going into probably gonna end up going into ketoacidosis. Too much carbs and you might face insulin resistance. You know, like type 2 diabetes, which is what I used to have. I don't have it anymore. Actually. Which is good. If it's diagnosed early enough, you can actually get rid of it. I'm putting potatoes on, and eventually I'm gonna start putting carrots into the mix too. Wheat, beetroot, taters, and carrots would be some of those crops I'd plant. Because, you know, having massive amounts of crops is pretty important. Especially if you want to feed millions of people. The target goal of the community is a population of 12,000. That's the targeted population. Which is pretty important for a community like this. Basically, it'll be self-sustainable. Run entirely on renewables. There'd be no fossil fuels whatsoever. Because fossil fuels are bad for the environment. Look at coal and tar. And petroleum. Some of the stuff found in petroleum's been linked to cancer in humans. And other animals too. Which is why eventually petroleum would be out of the... Petroleum will end up kicking the bucket eventually. Because eventually government policies would reduce our consumption of petroleum and other fossil fuels. As we focus more on the cleaner energy, like solar, wind, water, geothermal, Stuff like that. Methane, we could probably use the methane from our flatulence. Not trying to create a fart joke or anything, but this is true. We can use methane from our farts. Which is, I know this sounds pretty disgusting. But there are videos out there to prove that. There are videos out there of people lighting their farts on fire. I know this sounds pretty stupid. It is. Which is why you should never try it at home. Because you might catch your butthole on fire. Which is actually called your anus. And I'm also planting some potatoes too. Just to take a break from the land tilling. Eventually, I'm gonna start turning those houses into high-rise apartments. Slowly, I'd go from regular houses to townhouses to straight-up apartments. Then high-rise apartments would take over. So we could feed everybody. Because our goal is to try to minimize land usage. So for the greater good of the animals. Because they need that land too, not just us. It's not just us that should use the land, animals should use it too. Piggy, want taters? Yeah, I was getting distracted by a bunch of pigs. Yeah, back to the game. One thing you might not notice is that it's not just carrots that can attract pigs. Potatoes can also attract them too. As well. It's not just carrots. Wanna know why? No one really knows. Because, you know, with potatoes, basically, they're nothing but starch. They're pretty starchy vegetables. They can be used to make French fries too, and also tater chips. That's how Larry the Cable Guy pronounces potatoes. Taters. As in Mater from Cars. By the way, Mater is voiced by Larry the Cable Guy. Because, you know, because they both have that same redneck accent. Hick Southern accent. Like you'll hear in hillbillies up in the mountains of Appalachia. Like Popcorn Sutton. He's probably sort of well-known example of a redneck. Even though I myself am from the South. But you know, a redneck can also be a derogatory term too. Like, they can also be used as a stereotype like Bubba J from Jeff Dunham. Or the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. With Bill Engvall, Tater Salad, Jeff Foxworthy, and Larry the Cable Guy, also known as Mater. Yes, Mater. Because he voices Mater from Cars. That's probably why, if I was to meet Larry the Cable Guy in person, I'm probably gonna call him Mater. Because, you know, Mater's voiced by Larry the Cable Guy. Like, get her good! Which is one of Mater's catchphrases. It's also Larry's catchphrase. One stereotype about rednecks is that that all rednecks have buck teeth. This is certainly not true. There are rednecks of all kinds. They don't necessarily have to be white people. There are rednecks of color, too. Busting redneck stereotypes. Not all rednecks love to shop at Walmart. Some shop at Target, too. They shop anywhere, basically. Oh. Like everybody else. The redneck Walmart thing is just a stereotype. Jeff Foxworthy's 12 Days of Christmas, where the elf said, "Woo! Somebody done been to the Walmart!" Yeah, that. Imagine, I wonder if Walmart's popular up in the Appalachia. Because they might have video games like Minecraft too over there at the Walmart for the wealthy few of the Appalachia. No, I'm not trying to promote capitalism or anything. I'm against capitalism. Because capitalism leads to inequality, which then leads to violence. Basically, a clash between the proletarians and the bourgeoisie, or the masters, or the master and the slave would clash against each other. Or maybe Stalin and Hitler, which is a well-known example of a clash against each other. Stalin and Hitler are a well-known example of a clash between two people. Two different types of people. Which is an example of which can also end up going into war. Because, for example, like the Russian Civil War, or the American Civil War to abolish slavery, or the Russian Civil War to fight poverty, the American Civil War to help control the spread of slavery, stuff like that. Slavery is just wrong. Because, you know, you're abusing people on a large scale. And it's not just people that become victims of slavery, animals end up being victims too. Look at the circus. Sometimes animals end up lashing out against their trainers for being just because they abused them, just because they wouldn't do the tricks. The problem with that is that it's unnatural for animals to perform tricks like that in nature. Some of those tricks are pretty painful. Some of those animals are pushed to the limits, which is probably why Barnum and Bailey Circus ended up closing down for good. Which is something I'm probably happy about. I'm happy about the fact that they don't do the elephant acts anymore. Let's hope zoos around the world stop using the bullhook. Let's hope they phase out the use of bullhooks. Because imagine being jabbed by one of those. Yeah, you wouldn't like that. Or a cattle prod. Or a whip. Just like the slave masters did to their slaves when they refused to do the work. Yeah, that's just wrong. I'd call animal circuses slavery against enslavement of animals. Basically, you're enslaving animals to do tricks that are deemed unnatural in their habitats. Which is why they often end up lashing out because of all the abuse that goes on. Just like Tyke the elephant, who killed so many people after she was being abused. Yes, she was a girl. She ended up getting killed by gunshots. That's pretty sad. That an animal had to go through all that suffering just to make us happy. This is horrible. I agree with PETA on that one. That circuses that use animals are abusing them. Circuses that use animals end up abusing them with the use of bullhooks. That's just wrong. This is horrible. The big cats that jump through rings of fire, naturally they cannot do that because they're naturally they have an innate fear of fire. Back to the game. Imagine if we made a ring of fire like that in Minecraft, which you have to jump over that. Your character's gonna get burned if this was survival mode. I wonder if Minecraft could release a new update regarding biodiversity, like elephants, tigers, lions, or maybe even foxes or coyotes. Because we need more biodiversity in Minecraft. Because over the course of a couple of years, it has increased more in diversity, but slowly. We need more diversity, so we could breed more animals of any kind. So we could have more variety of pets. Because we all deserve to be created equal. We all have to be created equal. In any way, shape, or form, we should be created equal. Equality can actually reduce crime around the world. By a lot. For some people, totalitarianism can be the only solution, but that takes away our freedoms, which is just wrong. Imagine being torn away from your habitat just to take part in a circus while never seeing your mother again. That is just sad. It causes psychological distress towards the baby elephant. Which is why it should be illegal. We need tougher punishments on kidnapping. Regarding kidnapping, we need tougher laws to make it harder for people to kidnap children. so less children would die. Oops. Got a little sidetracked. Much better. Much better. That's what we need. We're telling the land, we're leaving one block of land behind so we could use that to dig a path to China. Oops. I'm using it as a guideline. So it could help me later on in future videos. Because, you know, the guidelines are pretty important if you want to build large structures. Because one small mistake and everything goes out of whack. Which is why you need guidelines. It increases your precision by a long shot. And accuracy too. Which is why it's best to start off small and work your way up. Right now the community is still pretty small. Eventually it only has 4 houses right now. I might think about adding more in future videos. How am I going to start creating high-rise apartments? Probably by building a guideline around what the base would look like. We should center things around. And I might think about replacing all that grass path with stone paths to improve things a bit. Oops. To make things a bit more modern. The reason I'm using the grass path is this is just a starting point for the community. Once I finish things up, this might other things to do as well. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Once this is done, it'll be the end of our video. And don't forget to leave a like if you like this video, dislike if you dislike it, subs if you loved it, bell icon to be notified. Share this with your friends on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and others to help my channel grow. Thank you for watching, and, as always, peace.